What's up, guys? Welcome to the Marketing Grind. This is the show for marketers that are tired of the daily grind, chasing those quick wins, the small KPIs, and the low-hanging fruit that are ultimately chasing these arbitrary short-term goals. Here, we're exploring the tactics, the mindset, and the actual work it takes to create connections, real connections built on long-term impact, day in and day out. This is the Marketing Grind. Okay.
Applaud the reading, whatever, embrace it.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we got to dust the rust off a little bit. This is a show that has been a couple years in the making. We started this back in 2020 during the pandemic, shot a few episodes. Now we're back with the Marketing Grind. And the marketing world has changed. I think the most exciting part of this relaunching the show is getting into what are the new technologies that have been introduced, the things that are helping marketers today, and really the things addressing the issues that as marketers we faced in this 2023 world, because it's a very real thing, and marketers are sort of getting super excited by by different technologies like AI and ChatGPT and things like that. So we'll get into that. Yeah, but I
think real quick, not just the marketing world has changed. We've changed. You and I have changed. That we recorded in I think 2020 or 2021. I think 2020, and
it's all 2020. Yeah,
and. We didn't have a vision for what we were trying to do. We didn't have a mission. I feel like now we're coming into this chapter 2 with a little bit of a vision for what we want to say and what's fucked with the world of marketing right now and what's really grinding our gears and how we want to battle through it. So I'm excited to relaunch this. This is super fun.
Yeah, I agree that the things that we're dealing with now are so different than what we dealt with in 2020. But before we get into any of that stuff, right? We love coffee, and so part of the Marketing Grind is we're drinking coffee as we chat through some topics. So let's start with that. What are you drinking right now, Gary?
Yeah. So for anyone that knows me and is listening to this, I'm a cold brew guy. I really don't drink it any other way. So right now I'm drinking a roast from local LA roaster Groundwork. And this is their Bitches Brew, one of their kind of flagship roasts. Dark roast, super dark. That's really all I go for. Ground this really coarse, cold brewed it myself for 24 hours in the Filtron. So anyone that's a cold brewed nerd probably knows about the Filtron. And man, it's fudgy. It's wow. Dark chocolate brownie batter. A little bit of kind of earthy smokiness on this. Just really, really nice brew. This is up my alley. I think with cold brew, you can kind of lean floral and fruity, or you go dark chocolate and roasty, and that's where I'm sitting at today. So it's delicious. This is a staple in my cupboard. Groundwork is one of my subscriptions, so I've got a bag of this pretty much at all times. It's a really good one. What do you got?
Awesome. Yeah, love Groundwork. So I'm experimenting a little bit with something that you got for me for my birthday recently. So I'm drinking a nitro cold brew. And nice. It was supplied by this fancy little contraption, which basically lets you have nitro cold brew at home. So it's a concentrate. You mix some water with it. You mix in the nitrous oxide, and you get a little coffee out of it.
That's cool.
So
I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of the concentrate came with the kit, so I can't speak to the brew or to the roastery and whatnot, but it's good. It's light. It's easy drinking. It's earthy. So this is from, what are they called? Nitro. Natural Coffee Club. So I got to maybe explore more like what sort of options I can get out of that. But
Nitro Coffee Club, if you want to sponsor the pod, this is your
there you go.
opportunity to get in.
Exactly. Hey, Nitro Coffee at home. It's actually it's so easy to do. It's actually a really cool device. So thank you for supplying that to me. And the coffee's good. Colombian coffee, light, easy drinking, roasty, little earthy. I dig it for what we're doing right now. It's a good choice. So
nice. NitroCoffeeClub.com, promo code Grinder.
Oh no, that's a terrible promo. What are you trying to promote here? All right. So yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue because what we want to talk about today in this episode is copy and language and how we approach certain opportunities to talk about products and strategies and things like that. And we were having a conversation recently about we tend to sort of be too formal or to overuse words that are a little too high level when trying to distill down to other types of people and to customers and things like that. So it really became a conversation about language, copy, voice, tone, all that stuff. So I think this is a great way to kind of get into that. And why don't you just jump in, man? Let's talk about the issue here.
I mean, the issue comes up because it's painful to me. And I think you agree that it's painful in the day to day. Like we are trying to work and be people and write and speak on a regular basis. And something's broken in me. And I feel like, based on our conversation, it's not just me, that this is broken in other people. And so I found it really interesting to maybe dissect this a little bit and figure out what's going on, what can we do about it, and what have we tried so far. So the first thing is like it kind of all stemmed from you and I recently trying to step up our activity on LinkedIn. And so we're creating kind of personal posts on LinkedIn that speak to who we are as people and how we view the world as professionals. And man, I'm writing these posts. I guess I have to give a shout out to Break an Egg, this service by Jack Appleby and Amanda Goetz, who basically prompt you on a daily basis for like ideas to post on LinkedIn. So we're using this to kind of get inspired a little bit. And I'm going through and I'm answering these prompts and, I'm kind of doing stream of consciousness to start out and then cleaning things up. It's in the cleanup process that I'm really like struggling because I'll wrap things up and I'll be like, all right, that looks good. And then I'll read it back to myself and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like it sounds like a robot wrote this. And so then I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll be like, all right, ChatGPT, like hook me up. You're good at writing stuff, I hear.
Yeah, then you go to the robot to help you write it.
Exactly. I'm like, robot, help me sound more human. And it just is like, it's just a backfire. It's just a complete backfire. I try to figure out like, why is this happening? Like, I've worked in marketing for like 15 years. I shouldn't have this problem. And you mentioned some of those keywords, voice and tone. I use these words on a regular basis when like directing copywriters in my work. And I've never actually like stopped and like tried to apply that to myself. And now I've started doing this and it's got me like overthinking everything. So what I figured out is happening is that early on in my career, let's say the first half of my career, I'm still trying to figure my shit out, like there's a lot of stuff I haven't done. And so when I'm communicating to clients and to teammates and to bosses, I'm like over explaining stuff. I'm like going super marketing jargon, technical. Like if you read this is a guy who knows his shit. And ultimately I was trying to like overcompensate for like just not having that much experience. And so over time, like I actually got good at it. Like I felt like I would write these emails off and I'd be like, fuck yeah, this email like reads so well. Like this guy like is like a professor. This guy's been practicing marketing for like 40 years. And I'd be like really proud of this like overly technical speak and language. And these days I'm like, I'm looking at some of the stuff I'm putting out and it just, to me, it's just like, it means nothing. Like this is a weakness now. So it's like this progression in your career, like early stage, you overcompensate. And then like, as you're later in your career and you actually do have some kind of chops and have some years under your belt, you're like, wait, I actually kind of sound like I don't know what I'm talking about now. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now you're in a position where you're also, receiving emails or pieces of copy like that from other people. And you can kind of, tear that up a little bit. Cause I feel the same way. Like I go back, I've read old emails that I've written, that I'm just like, I'm trying to overcompensate on some knowledge here with using some big words. And ultimately I'm like, I don't write like that anymore. Like it's all about using just the words that you normally would use. It's just writing how you talk, and that's how, if we're talking about, this is the people thing, like, connecting with people, you just write how you want to talk. I think that's like the most important thing that I've garnered from all this, whether it's in an email, whether it's talking to, other teammates, or even in the copy that I'm using for the website and for marketing materials. It's how are people actually like communicating? How are people actually talking about things? And I think that's like number one, is just to get in the mindset of who the audience is and how they talk about things. And don't sugarcoat it. You just say it how it is.
I think that's easier said than done, right? Like,
of course,
I'll kind of walk you through my process a little bit.
Okay.
I write, I read it, I edit it, I rewrite it, I edit it, I completely delete it, and I start over again. I'll write it again, then I'll get to a point where like, okay, I'm going to publish, I'm going to send, whatever, I'm going to ship. I ship it, and then 5 minutes later, I reread it, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I could rewrite this again. Like, it's just not like writing how you talk. It's an idealistic state, to me, at least. I feel like there is always an element of like refinement and cleanup that needs to happen. And it's just like, it's like swinging back the other way. So like, I don't know. I find that the most common search in my Google search history is like word synonym. Like I'm constantly just like, what's a synonym for like exercise or drive or build or tangential, or like, just like these verbs and adjectives and adverbs that we use to like describe marketing programs or to describe results or progress, that tries to get you closer to writing how you speak. So I don't know, man. Like I'm just wrapped up in my head about it, and it's just a struggle.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of overthinking, to be quite honest. I think it's like you want to stand out, you want to be a little bit different. Like you're personally tired of using the same old words, the same old jargon. Yeah. So I think it's a personal thing. At the end of the day, the impact is likely the same, and you can't get wrapped up in what's going on in your head,
Maybe.
I mean, I've been there. Like it's like, I mean, even with writing anything, it's, I used that word in the last paragraph, or I use, the same sort of phrase. And sometimes there's opportunities to switch things up, but at the end of the day, it's all about the impact and resonance. And, and if the words that you want to use are going to, give that impact, just roll with it and don't think twice about it. I don't think you can get wrapped up sometimes in some of that, but there's other times where like, sure, you sort of have to phrase things a different way. Just, I think it depends on the channel too. Like email is one thing, a blog post is different. So it really depends on the channel.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think you hit the keywords on the head for me. I've gotten a lot more intentional about making impact, having some level of resonance, developing some level of a connection through my writing. Ultimately, like outcome based thinking in my writing versus like thinking about writing as a, as the end goal. Like I'm trying to answer a question or get words on a page. Like looking at it from an outcome first perspective of I'm trying to get this person to believe this, or I'm trying to get this person to take action on this. That's really like, I think the genesis of this entire like existential crisis that I'm having in language right now. Is that I started thinking about things that way. And then I started reading, like really reading what I was writing. And also, getting distance from your writing, I think is really important. But also part of my problem is that I would write something and normally just like ship it off. And now I'm writing something and I'm holding it for 24 hours and coming back to it. And I'm coming at it with like a fresh perspective. And I think you're right. Like everything has a purpose, and there's certain channels or certain mediums or certain types of writing or communication that require that level of detail and level of care and attention. And there's some that don't. And so, I found myself like spending more time on email communication than I have in the past. And so it's really gotten me all worked up. And the thing is that I feel like my writing is stronger now than it ever has been, but I'm also spending way more time on it and thinking about it way more. So there's got to be a balance here, and I'm looking for that balance. But I definitely found it to be challenging, and I think if you're listening to this and you've gotten this far in this like kind of weird existential kind of like meta conversation about communication, is that like, are you being intentional with the words that you're using and the language that you're using and tailoring them to the audience and the outcome that you're trying to make happen? I think that's like the prompt for everyone listening here, and really the prompt that we're giving ourselves. Like, are we being intentional, or are we just like word vomiting a bunch of jargon to make people feel like we know our shit? And you specifically, like some of the work that you and I are doing together is like on your like job hunt and kind of finding the next like full-time role for you. You're in this day to day. Like how are you attacking this on like once you send an application out, there's no undo button on a lot of those things. So how are you thinking about it from that context?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Like you need to sort of tailor the resume, to the job and what the next opportunity is. But also, for me, like I'm, been in B2B marketing for the last 6 years. That's the avenue that I want to continue to go down. And so there's a lot of, lots of language and jargon and performance metrics and things that go along with B2B as opposed to, B2C or being in an agency that are very different. True. And so, need to really tailor the resume and all the answers that I give in applications or conversations and interviews, to really speak to a lot of those sorts of things. So, yeah, I mean, but at the same time, you need to speak the language. I think that's what I've learned is, in regards to the job hunt, it's when I'm in the interviews and I'm talking to, the CEO or the chief operator or the chief marketer, they want to hear certain things. And they want to, in terms of KPIs and activities. And so again, it's the audience, I think, like who is the audience for the communication that you're putting out, whether it is, a job application, whether it is a Slack message, whether it's an email, or, you're writing copy for a product service page, like who is that audience, and understanding that component is the thing that's going to make you a better writer, because you got to get in the mindset of that person that is receiving this message or that communication. and to get into that mindset is what's going to make, your output more successful at the end of the day. And so, from a B2B perspective, that's all we did was, get in the mindset of our customers. How do they, I mentioned, write how your customers talk about things. That's the best way to write a landing page or a product service page, and get in the heads, get the intelligence from the customer to be able to help sell a product or to sell yourself, in my instance. So that's been the game for me from a communication standpoint. It's been nuts. But I want to get back into the ChatGPT stuff a little bit because I know that's like, I don't want to make this like an AI conversation, but like, how have you utilized it to help you become a better communicator? Do you run things through ChatGPT or other AI tools? And, like, sure, you can write a prompt or a premise, but like, how are you sort of utilizing those types of tools to help you become a better communicator?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, like anyone, I'm still learning and experimenting and figuring out that ChatGPT and AI in general as a tool is getting better. I think. So the first thing that I'll do is I will, whenever I give ChatGPT a task, whether it's generating content from scratch or helping me kind of refine the writing that I'm already doing on my own, I give it a role. So like, let's say I want it to like create a first draft that I'm then going to like massage my own way and rewrite and kind of do my own thing with. I'll prompt it to be a content marketing expert or a kind of UX writer or something like that. Like I'll give it a specialization and I'll give it topic and parameters and direction and let it go from there and then kind of do my thing with it. Or if I'm giving it my writing, I will tell it to be my editor and I will give it direction on how I want it to be thinking about my writing. Specifically in this context, be concise, use simple sentence structure and straightforward language, remove jargon. Write in a way that one phrase I use all the time is, can we be more concise without you losing our key message and still making as much or more of an impact? I'll use that prompt all the time to like tweak parts of sentences or tweak whole sentences. That's how I'm using cool. it. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think it's like it's an extension of the team. Like you're almost using it as like a little bit of a team member role. And and I think for like lean, nimble marketing teams, there's a lot of value there as long as you know how to use it the right way. Because I think that was like the big kicker for a lot of companies or just a lot of marketers. It's like, we're going to lose our jobs because of ChatGPT, but it's, like, and if that's the case, then, the founder, whoever wants to then run marketing, they don't understand it the right way. They don't know how to use it. So they just think, I'll just use ChatGPT to write my next blog post or my product page. There's still a need for, the marketing team to come in and to flex those muscles. But it's a tool. I think that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's just a simple tool that can help elevate and help accelerate some of the output that marketing teams are trying to do. So
yeah, absolutely. You just have to give it a role. Like if you look at it as just like this generic thing that can create,
it's not an answer to the big question. It's a supporting character ultimately.
Exactly. And like you have to give it so much in order to get something specific out of it. So like even for myself, what I'm working on right now, if you're familiar with ChatGPT, the custom instructions feature that comes as part of the pro plan. Basically, it's like an add-on to every prompt that you give it that kind of reminds it of what you're trying to do and kind of like your ultimate objectives, without having to like restate it as part of the prompt every time. So what I'm working on, I'm using ChatGPT to help me write a very specific custom instruction that I'll then put back into ChatGPT, and it'll help ChatGPT as a tool provide answers and responses that are closer to what I'm looking for, as a strategist, as a marketer. And really that comes down to like those preferences that I'm saying about like respond with simple sentence structure and use concise language and all that kind of stuff. The stuff I tend to repeat to it all the time. I'll be able to kind of like add that as like a tweak to every single thing I put into it so that I no longer have to remind it. So it increases the quality of the responses that I'm getting out specific to me and my preferences. So it's almost like verbal guidelines and like writing style guides that are custom to me and how I speak and how I write. So that's how I'm playing around with it, is I'm just trying to make it more useful, because it takes a lot of work to get something really good out of it. So the more you put in, the better you put out. I think that this, like the ChatGPT as a whole, kind of it muddies this conversation a bit, because it can ultimately make you a worse communicator if you're not careful. And I've learned this firsthand. And I'm trying to like have it help me, but it's hard. It really is hard.
Yeah. There becomes like a reliance on it in a sense, where you're just like, hey, like this, you should already know how I would communicate this already. But you know, what's interesting, because like you're in the agency world, and when we talk about like voice and tone, like you, I mean, I know that you're overseeing a team and everything, but like, you know, you got to kind of switch in and switch out of different types of brand voices, you know, with different types of clients. Like, how does that balance work? Like, how do you kind of stay on top of the team to make sure that the output is being very reflective of how the brand, the companies that you guys are servicing, that you're satisfying that brand voice with different types of clients, different types of industries? I'd love to kind of hear like the background on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's defining and documenting these things up front in depth, and creating some actionable documentation for writers that guide them towards voice and tone and style and all that kind of stuff, and providing those tools to your writers, so that they're empowered to follow that direction. And it's having a strong editing process that has those things front and center, and edits to those style guides. It doesn't get any more granular than that for me, because I'm not really part of that process. But it's just creating the right tools, bringing the right people into the process, and then making sure that they're empowered to use those tools to create their best work. That's as simplistic as I think it gets on my end. But how does that work for you?
Easy.
Are you part of the creation of those guides, or how does that work in your application?
Yeah, I mean, in my world, in like the B2B and really like the early stage, growth stage type companies, a lot of times like I've been like the founding marketer or like the first marketing hire. So like I've had the freedom to sort of define those things myself, which is really nice, because I come at things like by channel. Right. So I sort of have to look at, how are we communicating things on LinkedIn versus Instagram versus a blog post, and who are we as a company? I think that, that takes a lot of, effort to really define as well. And talking to the founders or the CEO of, how do we really want to present ourselves publicly in these different spaces? Do we want to be like the cool hip brand, or do we want to be the more buttoned up formal brand? and then you sort of find, you sort of tweak it, or you find like the nuances between channel to kind of present yourself in the right way. My last org, so we ended up bringing a creative director in, and they helped define the brand voice and the whole brand, essentially, and how we talk about things. And so that sort of trickled down. So we had this guideline that we would then utilize across different channels and different different business units, and how we really described not just the company, but even just the products and the way we would do it. But yeah, like my experience has been pretty fluid. It's actually been, I love it because it's like because I joined these companies pretty early. I can just kind of use my own discretion and kind of do things the way that I think they should be done. The way that you would, that you'd write like a short form piece of copy on Instagram might be a little bit different, right, than what you would use on LinkedIn, but there's still guardrails that you need to sort of fall within, to write that copy. So there's definitely some guidelines to adhere to, but ultimately I think it's by channel. How do people respond on things on Instagram? How do people respond on things on LinkedIn? So for me on like the B2B side, it's just, you just kind of have to look at channel by channel. And again, luckily I've been so early stage, I can just do whatever the heck I've wanted.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting when you look at kind of channel specific communication, it's always jarring to me when you have those, like these big brands, like I'm like, I can't even think, let's say Wendy's, right? Like a corporate brand that has TV ads and outdoor and all this kind of stuff, where they're like, they have this image that's legacy and it's expected, and it's a world that people don't break out of in any major way, that kind of like corporate quick serve restaurant type of world, or whatever world the brand is. But what I'm trying to say is the Twitter persona, it's always like jarring to me when you have like that one like rogue social media manager who like takes Twitter and just makes it like
I love that
the
stuff.
weirdest I know, but it's also like totally weird too. And like they're like talking in all lowercase, and they're spelling like what, like W-U-T, and like it's kind of like personality disorder. And I'm not sure, I'm like, at the big brand level, like, sure, it's kind of fun sometimes, but like, really, if this is your brand and like you like have a lot of care and attention over it, that seems like a kind of wild way and risky way to go.
I mean, I think brands like that they don't have much to lose in that sense. I mean, they probably do if they say the wrong thing, but I think it just goes back to like, again, like writing how you would normally talk or write on those specific channels, like, and that's why I love those examples, because those big brands are utilizing Twitter the way that anybody would use Twitter. And so it's personalizing this corporate brand down to like, into a company that you and I can, interact with, and it makes them more approachable. I think that's the key, is like the approachability of like, okay, like with a McDonald's, I think, the Wendy's example is great, because they were like the king of like roasting, the other fast food companies, on Twitter, but they did it in such a way that it was very native. I think that's the key, is like, and this has been like, that's not a new concept, like right. Being native to the platform, like, don't approach each channel or each social media platform the same way, because everybody on that platform is receiving or wants to receive these communications a little bit differently. And so I think they really tapped into that mindset on Twitter anyways, to be so native to how people actually communicate on these things. And I think that's That's super key. I think it's still important to this day. And I think a lot of people forget, they phone it in. And for me anyways, like, being a B2B marketer for like small companies, like it's easy to do that, right? It's like, all right, like marketing manager one, it's got to handle everything. So we're going to phone in social. So let's just post the same damn thing on every channel. Mm-hmm. And I'm absolutely against that. Social is very important. It's not going to drive B2B sales on a day in, day out basis, but it's still super important to have that presence and super important to have, that brand voice out there. And, you can't phone it in. I think that's my big message. You can't phone this stuff in. There's a lot of deliberation that needs to happen, with all sorts of communication, whether it's a blog post, social, email, Slack, everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. And as someone that preaches being intentional, like that is the ultimate form of that in, social marketing, at least, or just marketing in general. We started this conversation on the personal side. We've veered it over to the brand side. I'm going to steer it back before we break, back to personal. And you sent me a text this morning and you said, I have to do this video and, should I do it the regular way or should I show my personality and kind of, write how you talk, so to speak, like the visual version of that, and show up like I just got out of a workout. Like, should I show the real me? I love that you prompted that as a question. Like, talk me through, like, how did you even, like, what was your thought process going into that? Like when you asked me that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the application prompt was like, send us a 1 or 2 minute video, no fuss, no muss, or whatever, however they phrased it. And so when I was working out this morning and I was thinking about this video, that's kind of what I thought. I was like, well, and I think a lot of people can feel the same way of like when you're working out, when you're getting the endorphins flowing, like right out the gates, right after you're done with your workout, like it's really easy to just like ease into like a more, another productive task. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was like, like when I'm doing this workout, I should record this video because I'm just feeling high on life and whatever. So that was kind of my thought process, was like, when I'm done with this workout, like, should I just record this video because I've been thinking about it for the last day, and I don't want to script it out. I think that's what my kicker is like do, like when you press record, that's tough, to come up with the words to say, to come up with the right words to say. And so I really didn't want to script it out. I really just wanted to come in real. And I just felt like, hey, I'm in this moment where I can probably spit out a good 1 to 2 minutes of who I am. And the workout was part of that. Was like, hey guys, like I just stopped, just ending my morning workout. Super important to me to start my day. And so a lot of that was like you trying to show me as a person. I think we get, especially like for me, job hunting and whatnot, it's I get so wrapped up in the professional side of things that I want to showcase the personal side of things. Mm-hmm. So
what did you end up doing?
You told me to get cleaned up. You said you would err on the, polished side. So that's what I did. So, yeah.
I think that's the safest route, not knowing who the hiring manager is. Yeah. But I love the question and that you came up with that. And, I think it would have been a good exercise to record both.
I should have recorded before and after. The reason why I thought to do it was because I guess he's a hiring man. He's the fractional CMO at this company. This guy Jason, who when he left his last job, like was, training to hike like Mount Rainier, and like, I can tell he's an active guy and whatnot. And then so that was sort of the impetus of like, Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's important to him. It's important to me, and maybe there's a connection through that sort of activity. And I wasn't going to talk about that. I've backpacked the Grand Canyon a couple times or anything, but at least there's
Yeah.
some sort of indication that's like, yeah, like it's important to me each and every day, or at least when I can when I can fit it in is the activity level, and
Mm-hmm.
and so we can connect on that. So and that's fine. I don't think that's a deal breaker either way.
Right.
As long
It's a
as
way of standing out. It's like,
it's just different. Yeah, it's just
I like
different.
that.
I
Yeah.
didn't, yeah, there's a part of me that, I didn't want to be the, let's stand in front of the screen and look our best and kind of spew or spew the typical stuff, when you're trying to, apply for a job. I really just wanted it to be supernatural and to come naturally and be as authentic as possible. And so that was my thought process there. But I think it's probably better. It's just, hey, just send the, not that it's
Well,
polished.
when you
it's
sent it
still
to
raw.
me, when you sent when you sent me that question, the only thing that ran through my head was when we were working at an agency years back, we had this guy, we had a video interview process, and we had a guy who recorded his video from very no fuss, very, like he just woke up, he was still in bed, and his bed was all messy, and he didn't turn out to be the wisest. For some reason, we hired him, and it didn't work out very well. So that was what was top of mind for me. Shout out to Daniel.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm much smarter than that. I'm not going to roll out of bed and start the video, right? It was very much there's an intention behind it all. And I think, again, I think we're going back to that theme of being deliberate, being intentional. So there was very much an intention to producing a video like that of seemingly just like stopping a workout and like being like, hey guys, just sorry, I'm a little sweaty. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like there's still, you have to be intentional with all these things. And
I think that's a good crossover. Like you bring this up, and I've been doing a little bit of video stuff on LinkedIn lately, and even at Hopped, my last kind of year at Hopped, when I was doing video work, a lot of it was scripted, or at least outlined. A lot of it was outlined and edited, and I found it easier, and it became kind of a crutch. And impromptu conversations, kind of like the one we're having right now, became more difficult as a result. So like when we were working on Hopped and we were doing video, it was fully unscripted, and it's a muscle, right? Like you get better at it over time, and the way we had conversations just got stronger, and the way that we approached language and speech and storytelling, you just get better at it. And so even in this conversation today, like this is a muscle that I haven't flexed in a while, and I have become a little bit reliant on the outlined or scripted edited video. And I'm not going to say I'll stop it, because I do like the outcome in certain circumstances, right? But I think your idea that raw and more human approaches to video communication, just like writing, have a time and place, and we should lean into them with intention.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's we talk about connection so much, long lasting connection, and any way that we can put out content that's going to make somebody connect more with us or connect more with a company, whatever it may be. That's the goal. And the only way to do that is to be real, to be human, to connect with people on that human level. And it kind of starts, with this podcast that we're doing, like we've talked about having scripted moments and things like that. But at the end of the day, like we're marketers day in and day out. And and we want to connect with other fellow marketers that are, experiencing the same things as us. And we claim to, we don't claim to have all the answers to any of these things. We just have our experiences. And I think for us, like, we just want to share those. And I think those experiences are is what's going to connect us with, with other marketers that are going through the same things as us. It just got to be real, be human, be personal. And that's what's going to really help with that connection over conversion sort of mindset that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was a great way to wrap it up. And this is the true test. Do we outro this episode with a scripted moment, or do you just close us out from the heart?
Well, I think we can close it out from the heart, but we can also, if it needs a little bit of a scripted moment, then we can figure that part out later.
Drive us home.
Great conversation. Thanks for tuning into the relaunch of the Marketing Grind with Mack and Gary. And we hope to bring you guys some more insights into marketing that matters, marketing that resonates, marketing that results in long-lasting connections. So we hope you join us for the ride. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace out.